Welcome. Hi, my name's Drissy Henson. I am on the Conservation Commission and I'm the liaison from the Commission to Putnam Farm. And as you probably all know, the Conservation Commission is in charge of managing the property at Putnam Farm. Just real briefly, a lot of you have heard this all before, but quick history of the property. The town acquired it in 2010 with town money and also a grant, Mass Land grant, to help us out to pay for it. Since then, ton of work has been done on the property. Some old structures that were there from old farming operations were taken down. We had a major wetland restoration. We're coming into year 2 of a wetland restoration out there. One of the unique aspects to the property is the water table is super high, combination of just naturally so, and also the fact that back in the 50s, it was mined for gravel to build the Eastham Rotary, which is why it's weirdly lower than its surrounding land, or partially why it's weirdly lower than some surrounding land masses. But it also means the water table is pretty high, which made it a great candidate for wetland restoration. So we put together a whole plan, and we're trying to establish some new vernal pools out there for some cool critters, and fixing up what was irrigation pond into a real wetland habitat, and some wet meadow habitat and dry meadow habitat. So sort of the whole corridor portion of the property there, where last year I'm sure you noticed a lot of activity and it looked barren, but is now filling in with all sorts of good vegetation and habitat and vernal pools and everything else. So we did that work. The first phase of agriculture out there was in 2018, was phase 1, I think. The first 5 plots, we still have some of those original growers. Then we added plot 6 and 7, and then more recently up to plot 12, and then of course a lot of you know really recently what we call phase 4, which gets us up to 20 plots, our 3,500 square foot plots out there. All the plots are equally sized to be equitable to you all as growers. We have done some work recently to sort of square up the original plots because they were sort of creeping and crawling in various directions over the years that they've been in use. So everything's squared up now. And what else about the history of the property? I mean, the management plan for the property calls for passive recreation, agriculture, and conservation. So it's this great combination of the conservation aspect to it, especially like the wetland restoration is going to hopefully attract a whole bunch of pollinators. That's going to help out the agriculture. And the passive recreation lets people, take a nice walk around the path network that sort of skirts the outer boundaries of the property and see what's going on and see all you guys growing there, which is very exciting for a lot of people to see that. You don't get to see sort of farmland much anymore around here. It used to all be farmland, not so much anymore. So it's a combination of all those 3 things, and the Conservation Commission attempts to balance those needs in managing the property. And we are actually currently starting to look at what's next, phase 5. So very exciting things happening out on the property, and I guess that's about it for history. And
I'll jump in because I'm not going to, my role here is to talk about rules and regulations, but I'm going to take a time out on that and introduce myself. I think most people know me, but my name is John Janelle. I'm the conservation agent for the town of Orleans. I'm the responsible department head for this piece of public property, and we're running our mandatory annual growers meeting today. And I'm going to ask you guys to go around and introduce yourselves, because I'm learning the faces, but you're all now a plot number in my head. And so I know we have one member here that's brand new, but I think most of you are here doing the same thing with us last year. And then we'll revisit rules and regulations, which should be kind of quick and easy. But I'll start down this end of the table. I see Matt. And Matt, can you introduce yourselves and I know plot number, you're number 9 if you forget.
I'm Matthew Mylan, plot number 9.
And I'm Rand Burkert, lot number 1, I believe.
Thanks, I see my next grower right here.
Yeah. Alex Bates, plot number 11.
I'm Allie Ludis, plot number 18.
Jill Becker, plot number 3.
And Jill's our newest lottery winner for everyone that hasn't yet to
Yeah.
meet Jill, so welcome Jill.
Got some good dirt.
Silas?
Silas Watkins, plot number 19.
Excellent.
Karen and Colleen Baker, plot number 4, she's told me.
That's right.
I'm Erica Olson, plot number 8.
I'm Steve O'Grady, plot number 6.
Jamie Sparrow, plot number 17.
Thank you.
Krista Lee, plot number 20.
Peter Smales, plot number 14. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. 14. I know it by name, not by number.
I'm Bob Bennett, I think I'm plot number 16.
You are. And, I see another, there's another 4 or 5 online. I can, if they can't talk, we can
Do you
run
want me,
them.
do you want me to let all of them in?
Why not?
Okay. They're on their way.
And so for those online, we're just asking you to say hi.
This is Molly Songus, plot 12.
This is Crystal McMorrow, plot 5.
Hi, I'm Jess Taylor, I'm plot 7.
And hi everyone, Jessica Rumpel and Dave Rumpel, we're plot 13.
Well, thanks everyone. I think by my count, we're missing only 2 growers. And so, maybe they'll join us late. If not, this is gonna be recorded, so anyone can watch it back. I think the Ag Council wanted to speak next, but I can table rules and regs update, and if you'd like to say something. Peter, you were gonna speak on behalf of the Ag Council.
Just to say, from behalf of, I'm just a member of the Ag Council, Alex is the chair, so I'm not gonna take your thunder. Just, again, welcome all to this glorious endeavor called Putnam Farm. And as I like to remind, I'm a Hopkins Community Garden plot holder. I'm not a member of the community here, but I am an avid agriculturalist and full supporter of agriculture within New Orleans and abroad around the world. And that what this wonderful thing about this is that you're farming in the public eye, as you all well know, and it's where it's a challenge and an opportunity for broader education to the Orleans and Lower Cape and beyond community about what's going on. So really glad that you're all here and ready to get going on a great summer. And the Ag Council is here generally to provide both guidance and support and questions and answers along the way. So please feel free to come in and join the meetings, which this is our normal regular time, 4:30 on the second Monday of the month. Alex is the new chair.
Yeah, welcome everyone. I'll keep my grower's hat on for this part of the meeting. But the Ag Advisory Council here is a resource to the growers if needed.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, thanks. I'm going to introduce Christina Smith, who's the assistant in my office and who a lot of you probably know and correspond with. And Christina and I both push out the rules every year, and I think everyone was timely in responding to us with payments and signing the acknowledgments, so we really do appreciate that. I'm going to run them down real quick because that's part of my responsibility here, but they're largely unchanged for 2025. The basic membership requirements are pretty much static. The general information is some of the more detailed stuff where we have the same highlights of prohibiting commercial activity on the town site. Making sure that if there's any concerns that affect either your use and enjoyment of the property, that you avail the Conservation Department, either through Christine or myself, of that. We're pretty well experienced in kind of diffusing those, and it's come up in the past, and I'm sure it'll come up again. But we're the point of contact if there's anything that comes up. We're reminding you always in here that water use is seasonal, and we'll talk about water use today. So we're still seasonal, and we still did shut off the water. I can't remember when exactly we did that, but right around, we pushed it pretty late.
1st of November.
Yeah, 1st of November. And so last year was the first full year on the irrigation well and through the pump house, and so that worked pretty good. The whole thing gets blown out as it was after the meter is pulled from the pump house. The meter was installed, I think, Friday, and so we're about to liven it up. We're gonna have leaks to chase, so the water's not on if you were there today, but might be turned on tomorrow, and then we'll chase leaks for the rest of the weeks, and hopefully the water should be up and running shortly. Second, we fix all the leaks and we're able to leave it on, Christine will probably let you all know that we achieved that success. Drew's introduction mentioned the unique nature of the property being low and being subject to seasonally high groundwater, which in the past was a concern. And so making sure that you all are aware of that, so you know what you're doing when you're growing, and if you're growing, I guess, root vegetables or stuff that overwinters, being aware of that. And then most of you recall last year that we were chasing that problem, which was a failed culvert under the DCR bike path, and most of you know that we got that replaced. So I swung through today, and after the weekend, we're still holding water in the wetlands piece that we did some work to restore last year, but the roads are pretty dry, and I'd be interested to hear about your plots if you're working on them, if they're still pretty dry. But I feel like we made some corrections there to problems, so I'm hoping that there's less of a problem going forward. Doesn't change the low nature of the piece, though. It's still a very low floodplain piece of property. Still the same disclosures in here about how we don't provide compost and we don't provide wood chips, and we don't take, we are literally doing all that stuff for you, and I think there's been a good back and forth with the growers in our office, and so when we hear there's a void of wood chips or there's a need for compost, we are trying to react to that, and we're still disclosing that we're not responsible for it, but there's a commitment there on the town's behalf to provide the organics to you as you're nurturing the land with the organics that we're providing. So it's working out, and that's a role that we're gonna hopefully firm up through maybe the installation of a more formal material storage bin on the phase 1 through 3 side, and we might build something later in the summer on that side. We're not sure what's going on with the new field just yet. We're still doing that side of the road type storage for you all. But that kind of relationship, if you need stuff, let us know. If we can get it to you, we will. I'd like to continue that. I think it's worked. But we can do questions and answers on that today if you have questions. The responsibilities in large part are identical. We do require this in section 3.2, this attendance to our annual meeting, mostly just to communicate again. And again, we're available to answer questions for you today. We're still doing our inspections and checking compliance against your responsibilities. And for those of you that were there, have been there multiple years, you know that myself and 2 liaisons, one from the Conservation Commission and one from Ag Council, do a monthly walk to check for compliance. And that's everything in your responsibilities section. So that's adequate activity on your plot, demonstrated by some type of effort by June 1st. That's maintenance of your plot through the growing season and attention to weeds. And that's eliminating rubbish off-site and off-site storage of your stuff on the town's conservation property. There's not been too many issues with this, so we're going to continue our schedule, and we're there at the beginning, like first week of every month. You should plan that we're going to come through there. We will come through there, and if there's something out of order, we will write you as we have. I've reached out to a number of people, but it's all gone pretty well. We've gotten great response to any kind of problems that have bubbled up, and there's been no long-term reoccurring issues to my knowledge. So that will continue, and I want you all to know how we work so you can expect it. there's nothing really new in the responsibilities. It's the same old responsibilities and kind of the same old inspection schedule that you should expect. There's really not much else new. Everyone stuck to the renewal stuff and was timely in the payments. We are allowing 2 growers to be assigned to the same plot. We have some language in there, and then we got language to resolve a problem if it were to arise, which it has not. But other than that, you all saw them, and I pretty much have signed off on them. And I don't have anything new to highlight in them, but I'm happy to talk about them, or we can put them to bed and talk about other things. So I guess I would open it up for any questions, if anyone has any questions.
Just a quick question about storage of rubbish. If I were to just put a trash can somewhere on my plot just to hold, I mean, I've been picking out pieces of asphalt and plenty of pieces of plastic and all that. Just kind of wanted to have somewhere that lives there.
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Totally,
right?
totally acceptable.
Fine. It's just
Yeah.
off plot
Yeah.
storage the only issue.
Yeah, well, even, accumulation on plot wouldn't be great. I
Right.
mean, but absolutely a good idea if you have a container and you want to keep it there.
Right, yeah, and just bouncing off of that too, I mean, it might be nice, I think, just to have as kind of trash can near the edge of my plot, if somebody is walking around and they have trash. I mean, I don't want to encourage people to be dropping their doggy poop bags and that kind of thing in it, but would that be fine if the public used it, or is that getting into an area where it's a little?
Well, we don't provide a trash receptacle we only provide one at one of the
Right.
16 properties that we have, so. And that's offered as a gift really to the town, so we don't really do that. I don't think we have a problem with it, but,
Okay.
I don't think we want to make it official though, because we have
That
to
was
change
kind of what
the
I'm,
management plan.
Yeah.
I know there's no signage that.
We're up, but
I didn't want to
unfortunately,
put up
we're-
a sign that says, hey, if you find any trash, put it here, but.
uniquely, we're in the same situation. People that don't pack in and pack out, we're picking up, so.
Yeah.
And that happens now.
And I certainly don't mind picking it up if it's there,
Yeah.
but.
The rubbish stuff in terms of the regs is, just asking you to keep your plot space neat and orderly, and if you're not using something is rubbish, that take it home, take it away.
It's pretty quiet, guys.
It's awfully quiet. Drusy
Gotta be
talked
some
on,
questions.
for plots 1, 2, and even 3, Drusy hit on it, and I'll talk about it, and I don't know if Aaron jumped on the call, but we had off-plot areas in the back where we scarified and seeded, and where we used to allow vehicles to pull back there, and let you all know over the winter that we were gonna stop that and just scratch it up and restore it and keep you out of that. That's been done, so that was the area that Drusy talked about. That's behind 1 through 3, and so 1 through 3, your plots are accessible right from the road. We're asking you not to pull back those anymore. We're still allowing you to park adjacent to 1 and, Crystal adjacent to 5. We're just, the wetland edge is in close proximity to the rear of those plots, and we wanted to abandon the vehicular use of that backside. So if you've been out there, you've seen that we've done that. I'm hoping like everyone's seen that we did a bunch of road work last summer. And so someone called me out on where I ran out of money in gravel though. So that was and so, I wasn't going to point you out.
It was so close.
But it was a pleasure to get to that point. And so I guess I should back up saying thank you for putting up with us through the restoration process. That was this time last year, it was a muddy mess. But it went really well, and we pulled off, I think, a successful restoration project, and we finally were able to get out there and clean up after a mess a little bit in the summer. And so we did run out of some funds, but we're programming to take that up again in the new fiscal year. So July 1, when we get reconstituted, we're going to make a second effort to finish with the gravel. We'll be back over in the phase 1 through 4 areas as well, just to try to build elevation. And then long term, I think, as you see us try to build elevation so you have a travel surface, we'll probably build elevation on the edges to reseed or so, I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're making these little pans now, so there'll be probably something new we'll have to do, but, thanks for hanging in with us there. I swung through today and it's surprisingly holding up through the mud season, so very happy with that. What else?
Go ahead.
Drusy, you mentioned that you guys might be coming up with ideas for phase 5.
Mhm.
Can you share any of those?
Well, John, do you want to talk about our little
Sure.
task force?
Yeah, and I have a map here that you can pass around, but, Alex, phase 5, the original land management plan, I'm gonna get this number wrong, I called for a,
3.17.
wow. It called for 3.17 acres to be restored to agricultural
Something
production.
like that.
And,
Historical deed.
yeah,
Yeah, with the.
we're under that now, but we're trying to get more land into agricultural production to meet the spirit of that. So we're looking at that area between phase 4 and the salt marsh. And we're looking at that area for a myriad of things. It could be more agricultural field. It could be high tunnel space, that idea was kicked around. And in addition to that, we're looking at restoration of the barn on the site. And we're talking about that right now, so it's very conceptual. In addition to the agricultural piece, we're also looking at more conservation stuff. So remember, we bought it for conservation and agriculture, so we have a little group now just brainstorming. It might involve some restoration on the salt marsh side, similar to what we did in the inland wetland piece. But we don't have anything yet. The commission has a small group, of which Drusy is on with myself and 2 other commissioners. Our process is, once we get ideas, we would visit the Ag Council, or we'd invite Ag Council or growers to the Conservation Commission where ideas might be discussed in open public to comment, and then we might build out a 5th phase. I would expect that we will be building more fields there at some point. And so that map being passed around shows you roughly where that area is.
But yeah, so opportunities for input are, through the office, through the commission, through Ag Council. So if you have ideas about it, please let us know, because we're talking about it now. And any ideas will be put on a Conservation Commission agenda so that people have a chance to publicly comment, or at least look at the meeting and see what was discussed. So
Yeah.
we welcome all input, please.
And the concepts, I think, the Ag Council, I think it was last September, sent a pretty detailed letter of growers' needs to the Conservation Commission, and that's part of this discussion as well. And that's in large part where the storage thing comes back into discussion about some type of facility to wash and store as you prepare your food and your food prepares to leave the site. Something that could assist growers get that job done. And then that's being talked about tomorrow, as early as tomorrow, but it's still very conceptual. What else?
Be online.
Question.
Peter?
I know you're not officially responsible for chips and that type of stuff. It's obviously worked out phenomenally well, but are there any rules or regulations about having chips and or soil delivered to the farm?
Yeah,
If I want to do that, are there rules I need to
No, you
follow?
can do that, and Tyler's not here, but he's one that has done that, and there's no issues with that. The only ask I would, you can have them dumped on your plot, and so if you're able to have them dumped right on your plot, like he has, that works out. We have a private contractor kind of supplying the phase 4 side. The town and another contractor has been doing the phase 1 through 3 side. I want to avoid a situation where everyone's dumping on. I want to retain some control over the deliveries, and so there's probably not a problem with getting wood chips, because apparently they started charging for their disposal about a year ago. So we have no issues with supply. If you wanna have someone dump on your plot, no issues with that. You can fire notice to Christine or I that the activity might be occurring, that way we're not surprised by it. But, we're trying to avoid where they're dumped in people's lanes of travel or shared space or off-site space. And if, there's like some shortage and someone's pulling in there and wants to dump in the areas where that happens, then that's fine. They're just trying to use the same people to supply everyone, so they're getting dumped in the same spot. And they're not dumped all over the place, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm trying to respect, it worked out great.
Yeah.
But I respect that you're not officially
Well, we are.
for doing that.
We're never gonna admit it.
It worked out great, but.
I mean, everyone lets us know and please do let us know if you guys are there and we're not always there, and just let us know, and then we can ask. And I think it's, for those of you that have let us know, I feel like we've been able to follow up pretty quick. And so, until that breaks down,
Okay, cool.
let's keep doing it that
Well,
way.
obviously, anything brought in is clean, organic, all the good stuff.
Well, actually, I got a question
Yeah.
about that. Is there a contingency plan in place for if it's not clean, if something is introduced?
No, and this has come up, and, and I think we were the guilty party
It's
because
a weed pile.
we had we brought in a lot of compost from the landfill, and so when you're composting at a municipal solid waste facility, you get wind-blown municipal solid waste. And so, I guess you never know what you're gonna get with that stuff.
I mean, the mugwort has been, you can keep on top of that, I've been able to keep on top of it, but I just worry that, if something else, if some knotweed gets in there, I've seen Phragmites, I pulled some of that out of there too, but, I mean, it seems, I'd like to have some kind of,
Well, the
just a
only,
plan in place if somebody has to come in to do removal or treatment, I know that we wanna keep everything organic, but in certain cases,
So we're bringing,
treatment is necessary.
we're only bringing in, so that's good, we should talk about this. We're bringing in compost. And, so I'd be nervous about anyone bringing in, loam or a product that hasn't been cooked. And the compost that we bring in comes in with a lot of weeds, and it's cooked to varying degrees of success. And there was an initiative recently to kind of improve that. We had a change in staff where I don't know, maybe we didn't have such a great turnover, and so the quality got a little bit poor, I think, last year. But we acknowledge that, and I think locally are taking steps to improve that. So I would refrain against really encouraging anyone to bring in any kind of loam, because it would be terrible to bring in weed seed, like knotweed or something with that. You guys probably know as much of this. A cooked product like compost is the way to go. And so the rules do allow for you to bring in material and dump it on your own plot. If you read them literally, I would just caution you on what you're bringing in, because you could really set everyone back. I mean, we're trying to be cautious ourselves, but I mean, we've loaded the place with mugwort, I'm sure of that.
Yeah,
And,
so, I mean, specific question, I guess, is, let's say, worst case scenario, somebody gets knotweed in a corner, it gets to a size where you can't dig it all out, would you consider treating that?
Well, I could tell.
Don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that we'd have to discuss. I mean,
Conservation Commission would have to
Right.
have a discussion about that and approve it or deny it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the CONSCOM will allow applications of herbicides for state listed invasive species, but we're managing this property organically, so it would put us in a conflict for a weird discussion for sure.
Certainly bring it up
Yeah.
if you find it, even small, and put a cordon around it and
I don't know,
keep on it.
I can't remember if I brought this up the last year or something, but if there could maybe, if the CONSCOM wanted to put together, say, an ID sheet
Yeah.
for the worst offenders
Sure.
to just post publicly, or to
That's a
send
good
out.
idea.
Yeah, we
a
could do that.
newsletter, That would be.
And we could talk about another one too, and we could talk about your plot edges for a minute. I mean, velvet grass we had a wet spring last year, and velvet grass, which is herbaceous grass, cool season, proliferated a lot around the edges, and I'm guessing it came in with some of the soil amendments, and as it does. And as we've talked about, and some of you struggle with these edges, and last year at the growers meeting, the only allowance we gave you to go off plot was to add, a 2 to 3 foot band of wood chips on your edge if you wanted to smother the weed seed. And we have some volunteers that will go string trim seed heads off of velvet grass to keep it in control. At least that way it won't spread. It's puts up a seed head in June, pretty obvious when it goes viable. And so there's a little bit of that going on, and we did a little mowing. But that's one that we could tell you what it is, and the controls are pretty basic, and you can either mow it early and get it before it goes to seed.
I think the control information too is, I think, really, really critical.
And I think, we heard a little bit too, we heard about others where there was flea bane, we heard about some other asters so this is gonna be an evolution, and I think when I heard this, we have to learn together and kind of track this, because these edges of these plots for me, where we had a field of basically predominantly warm season grass meadow, and then when we created ag fields and brought in soil and allow ag, and now we have this edge between the two communities it's kind of a changing thing. And so there's concern on ag council's end that we have aggressive and invasive species there. We don't want those to get away. So that's something I guess we could work on, Silas, and I would probably try to advance that between now and next year, but even we could do emails about when we see a bad plant going to seed or something like that, or.
Yeah, I think that'd be.
Okay.
Put together a quick list of the main offenders out there in terms of the invasives. The frags, there's frags over by the marsh, so they're probably blowing in.
I found chunks of root.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Pesky.
Well, I know we found other like plastic and other kind of
All sorts
invasive
of stuff.
garbage.
Oh, I found one of the mud flaps from the truck.
Did ya?
Yeah.
Okay, no charge for that. But yeah, we can work on the edge plants that we're seeing and maybe put together a list of suspects. But that allowance, I want to encourage that. Some of you, the only thing I did turn down was the black plastic on the edge, but I would encourage, so please feel free to weed whack and wood chip your edges. I mean, in the event it gets bad, we did push DPW through there with some mowing, I think, late June. But they're hard to get when they get into the summer rounds mowing. So you still have that allowance to maintain those edges with weed whacking and wood chips.
Anything else, guys? This is a quiet group today. Everyone wants to get back out in the field because
The water, so when if we go live and up the meter tomorrow, even if I have leaks on your uprights, which is where they tend to occur, on the bronze ball valve between the little stainless steel ball, which is hard, and the bronze, which is soft, we'll chase those out, but we might notice you that if you're desperate for water, the pump house will have the freeze-proof silcocks, and provided those did not break over the winter, they should be working tomorrow for you. So you'll hear from us soon that we went live, and there might be water at the well house, and then we'll work on finding the leaks.
Question about the water. I might have just forgotten if someone already asked this, but I've been assuming that it's not potable. And I just wanted to confirm that.
The irrigation well was permitted as a non-potable well.
Okay.
We had the water tested last year, once, and I'm happy to share those results. It was drinking water quality. We are not testing the water every year, and we did not permit a drinking water well. We could test the water more frequently if everyone thinks it's important to track. I don't think it's a big expense. But I I'm absolutely disclosing to you that was a non-potable irrigation well installation. I mean, I was probably the first one to drink it. I think I drank the test well water.
I didn't realize that.
You don't want to come out looking like me.
It tastes very good.
How are you feeling?
So I'll do what I do.
Sure it's better than
And that, it might be good to test it every year, I don't know, we might look at doing that.
Especially if we go to a wash station.
I more think we'd be concerned if we pick up a salinity hit as the more we use, but, well, we'll look at that, and maybe it's something that we can do again. I'll look into that.
That's a good question.
Is there any mineral testing of the water? There was something like iron content or?
I feel like that was all part of the results.
Yeah.
And like I said, what we can do is we can share the past results, probably tomorrow or the next day. And so you can see what the results produced. And then we can look into running another test once we get the water on. I think that'll be fine. I can't remember how they report, but I'm pretty sure iron and manganese and all that stuff was part of it. Yep.
Okay.
Everybody get over to like drip irrigation, and I feel like everyone's been, everyone was so dialed last year. It was really fun to watch you guys work.
Good question. I understand the town will have a water restriction this summer.
And I'm seeing this guy and I'm remembering something else I gotta tell you.
Will that impact the growers, or is there an agricultural exemption?
So I'm gonna ask Christina to report on this, because she's up to speed on this.
I sort of am. There are ag exemptions, but you still have to water within the time restrictions. So there are time limits to when you can water, so you have to follow those. There are no restrictions currently, but if they implement one, it would be in May. So you'll want to watch out for that, and we can alert the growers.
So we're off the municipal system, but we're still subject to
We are.
using the aquifer, and so, is that something we can share via email?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I'm remembering one other conservation thing that's going on out there this summer, and that happened last summer. Well, last summer, everybody started finding the turtles, right? And so we got a good population of eastern box turtle on the site, and we also have diamondback terrapin on the site.
Awesome.
And you guys are coexisting like perfectly fine. We did decide to study this a little bit. So last year, the protocol was if you found a turtle, you were to call us, maybe send a photograph, and we kind of had our Audubon volunteers able to respond, and we inventoried a few of these animals, and we're so confident we're going to find them again. We're actually going to put 5 radio tags on these things and track them around for the summer. So if you see a turtle, either it's eastern box or diamondback, can you call it in to either Christina or I, and we're going to deploy the team. So there'll be an initial deployment of these 5 radio tags, and so if you see the crew out there, that's what they're doing. And this is just a fun conservation aside, so we're going to study their use of the property to understand how they're using the habitats as we prepare for phase 5. So if we're into any of the habitats that they're using, we can either mimic them or provide them on site elsewhere, so we don't displace them. So we got a little turtle project that you might see going on, and if you find a turtle, please let us know, give us a call.
And if it's during business hours, do we want people to actually grab the turtle and hang on to it?
No, if it's off hours, no, you don't have to grab them. I mean, they're quick, actually. When we turned our back on a terrapin, the thing was in the poison ivy and gone. But I think if you're over one, at a minimum, take a photograph, please. For eastern box, a lot of what they use is the color of the shell to identify the animal. So if you're, I think the experts would tell me, if you felt compelled to detain it temporarily, you could put it in a tote in a cool spot. And if it were during business hours, where we can get, especially if it were a terrapin or something like that, we'll see if we can identify it. I think that's what they recommended last time. But if you're able to get one of us during business hours and we're able to get the team out there, we might ask you to put it in a tote or the bottom of a bucket and in the shade until we get there. So yeah, if you find them, call us. I mean, a lot of you guys found them, and that was how we were able to kind of inventory and number a lot of them. I feel like there's Larry Bird, who's number 44 out there. Sorry, well, there's 44. There's 30.
I think we had a Willie Mays, was like number 9.
Anyways, we got 3, and so, yeah, so there's some people having a lot of fun with this. And that's, the data collection effort will all be cloud-based and can able to be shared, and it should be fun. So you'll see them out there this summer as well.
Are there any turtle beds that the Conservation Commission or any the Audubon or anyone's made that we should be aware of?
No.
We haven't made any, no.
We've not made any. Given their affinity for loose soil and nesting and false nesting, they're gonna do that in your plots, is my guess. They've done that a lot in 10 and 11, I think. And I'm looking at the screen now and I'm reminded that there's a killdeer in someone's plot too.
Yeah, the killdeer eggs are at the side of what?
And so, but the cool thing is you're all coexisting with our local wildlife, and so as long as you just continue to make us aware, we can continue to do the thing for the local wildlife as well. So far, I think it's working out. It might be in the future if we get some understanding from this summer's effort that we do something to create turtle gardens, especially on the salt marsh piece for diamondback. I'm not sure how much box turtles gravitate towards those, but I'm sure we hope to learn a lot about that this summer. Not sure what else.
Is there a plan in place for the 2 hedgerows on the new section?
There is, and I just saw an email that we're expecting some woody plants for those. And so those are intended to be planted soon. I've not seen when we expect to take delivery from a nursery, but for that, the Xerces Society, who helped us with the restoration effort and the seed mix on the wetlands piece, has agreed to give the town woody plants for those 2 windrows. And so I did see that email awake with the coming of planting season. I expect those to be planted. I don't know, please, if you have an update?
Yeah, I can add to that. The good news is that although we thought they were going to be impacted by federal upheaval, I heard that a few days ago they're not. And we have a meeting with our ZRC's contact on Thursday morning, and if I were to guess, we will be planting sometime later in May, early in June, with a lot of their transplants that they'll provide, and we will let folks know. It'll be not only a ZRC's effort, but a volunteer effort opportunity. So I hope to know more by next week.
And those are intended to be, beneficial to ag neighbors, so, I mean, that was beneficial insect attractants and whatnot, so.
And as always, a thanks to Xerces. They do a lot for us out there, and they've given us a ton of knowledge, and I've come to really love the Putnam property, so.
Yeah,
Good
and that is
partner.
and that effort will be done to plan, to their spec. It's being done as a demonstration garden, and the reason it's eligible for funding is because of its proximity to the public. So, we've done a lot of haphazard hedgerow work through the evolution, but this will be the one that's formally done to spec from the ground up, so it should be wonderful.
Rick deserves all the credit for his cover crop,
Absolutely.
by the way. Nick of time last fall, but worked out. I don't know if there's anyone online have any questions for us while we're here? And if something comes up, reach out anytime, myself or Christina with any questions that you guys have.
Yeah, so, thanks, everyone. We'll let everyone go, so get back to work.
Thanks.
Thanks.